item is acceptance of the agenda as presented. Is there a motion?
Seconded.
Moved by Kathy, seconded by Jim. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. So that was made by Kathy, seconded by Jim. Approval of minutes for the regular July 19, 2017 meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. By Fred, seconded by Mike. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. The next item under communications and correspondence, Sarah and David Rudder asked to be on our correspondence agenda. And I welcome you here tonight to speak on animal ordinances. I have, for the selectmen, given them a copy of the ordinances that Portland has on the books. And also, Sarah has given us some additional information as well in terms of state statutes. So if you'd like to address the board, the best place is to go to the podium, please.
First of all, thank you very much for allowing us to come before you and the board, Susan, for this time to discuss this. I'm coming before the board, one, because there's an incident that's taking place at my home, but two, that incidents like this happen all the time, especially in the downtown area. And I think that our animal ordinances need to be addressed. I think that the public needs to be aware and made aware of the consequences that arise from a lack of social responsibility, dogs roaming on people's property, and the frustration and the anger it brings about when this is happening. Damages to people's yards, whether it's the urine or the defecation, and it's just becoming worse and worse. I've lived in this town 50 some odd years. I've been on East Main Street for 23 years. I have never had a problem with my dog until this year. For those of you who don't know me, well, most of you know me. I think there's a few faces that don't. Most of the time you hear about me because I run the Memorial Day Parade in this town. So I don't know if you hear good things or bad things, because you got to kind of yell at people to get them in line, but that's who I am. Okay? I don't know if you're familiar with my houses. It's across the street from the town hall, 32 East Main Street. I have a very well manicured front yard. So I'm looking, one, for clarification on the animal ordinances that the town of Portland has versus those that the state statute of Connecticut has, which I've handed out. And I'm also like to clarification on what a homeowner's rights are with regards to their property and the property line, and whether or not we need to have private property signs up in order to keep people off our properties for our safety and theirs. I can give you a little background. On July 5th of this month, or last month, I apologize, an incident took place in our yard. My daughter was getting ready to take our dog to the vet. Our dog had just had some surgery. A piece of cancer was removed from its leg and it had stitches. So she was parked in the driveway. She was going out to take the dog to the vet. The dog was not on a leash because the dog comes out the front door, usually gets in the car and goes. And there was a woman walking down the street with a dog. From what I understand, the dog entered our yard. The dog was on a leash, but it entered our yard. Our dog started barking, and this woman, I don't know what the situation is, but reacted oddly, was screaming, and next thing you know, Devin said, send the dogs to the house. The dogs immediately went to the house. This woman continued to scream. She was screaming profanities at my daughter, etc. Long and the short of it, I don't really know the situation because I don't have a report. That was on the 5th, and on the 8th of July, we were issued a ticket by the Assistant Animal Control Officer, Gene Kinsella. And I asked, we had a ticket that was issued for roaming and for nuisance. So right away I'm going, I'm not understanding what this is for. So that afternoon on the 8th, which was a Saturday, we went down and asked to speak to Officer Kelly. And he says, I don't really understand this. He goes, well, we can get some clarification for you, but it can't be done. It's a Saturday. Why don't we gather on Monday, the 10th of July, with the animal control officer? So we went to the town hall on the 10th of July, and we met at the police station because My husband is very loud and boisterous, and sometimes people take that as being threatening. And we didn't want that at all, because we love Portland. We want things to be nice here in Portland. When we got there, the animal control officers could not clarify really why we got a nuisance ticket, really why we got a roaming ticket. All we were told was it was this woman's word against ours. And my biggest question was, well, where's our statement? Because my daughter and her girlfriend were never interviewed on what took place for this incident. In the following weeks, from the 10th of July until this last week's Sunday, the 23rd, this Justice Respect Sunday, they had not taken a statement. I've had numerous conversations with Susan. I've had numerous conversations with and my husband has with the animal control officers. We've had numerous conversations with Officer Kelly, including Officer Cunningham. We must have your statement. We'll get the investigation done. We must have your statement. On the 23rd, Sunday the 23rd, the animal control officer, Jean Casella, shows up to our house and wants a statement from my daughter and her girlfriend now on what took place 18 days prior. It is now 28 days today. I still don't have a full report. I don't understand why we're being charged, because when we were there on the 10th, and I apologize for backing up, but when we were there on the 10th, Karen wasn't really sure why we got both charges, the nuisance and the roaming, so she took that first ticket back, and she says, let me look into this. And on or around the 18th or 19th, we were reissued a ticket with just nuisance, and the roaming charge was taken away, because my dogs never left the yard. So we talked to Officer Cunningham, and he said, you need to send the ticket in because there's nothing we can do about it. My concern is I would like to know what nuisance is, the definition of nuisance based on these code of ordinance that we have here, and why is a dog a nuisance in your yard if it barks? We as humans, our means of communication is to speak. When dogs walk by each other, their means of communication is to bark and say, hey, how are you? So I'm not understanding why a dog is considered a nuisance if they're barking to protect their yard. My dogs are barking to protect my daughter. We have had several tragedies years ago when my daughter was young. We were surrogate parents to a young woman at Wesleyan who ended up being murdered up in Boston. It's been emotional for us. It's been emotional for my daughter. And without those dogs to alarm us so that she is safe, I can't understand why when somebody walks by, my property line is not my property line. And if they choose to either trespass physically as a person or allow a dog, whether on a leash or off a leash, we can't have our dogs bark and say, get back. And that's where I'm looking for clarification. I also do believe that my dogs are being prejudged, because back on April 5th, another woman was walking her dog. Actually, she was walking a friend's dog. I'm not sure if you are familiar with Marlene Coleus. She was walking Mrs. Sprague's dog. In my opinion, Marlene Coleus is not all there. That dog is a pit bull, is a sweet dog, but it's not dog friendly. It was coming up the street, it entered our yard. My dogs went out in the yard, it attacked my dogs in our yard. Tore my dog's ear. My dog is now permanently scarred in its ear. So, of course, that was in April. And now in July, another dog enters the yard. My dog is going to bark and say, get out. I've been attacked in my yard. From April 5th, when that incident happened, till May 31st, I was harassed by that woman. I was harassed. I was stalked. The week before Memorial Day, she was going up and down the street, boycott the parade, because she knows I run the parade. It's very sad because her father and mother, her father was a Korean War veteran and a prisoner of war, and she's screaming at me to boycott the parade because she doesn't like who I am and what took place. Again, another situation where a dog entered our yard, our dogs barked, it attacked our dog, and I want to know, not just for me, for all the people in town, where our rights are as homeowners and where people's social responsibility is to protect themselves, protect their dog, protect our property so that we don't have these incidences blowing up. I don't see where we have, one, the way this was processed, this whole investigation or lack thereof is mind-boggling, that we can't investigate a dog incident in this town. Two, I am confused at why we are not seeing equal, the ordinances or the laws carried out equally across the board. And and as you know, there's tons of dog walkers. This past Saturday, when David talked to Officer Cunningham, he suggested we put up private property, no trespassing signs. That was against the recommendation of a lawyer friend of mine, not my lawyer, a lawyer friend of mine. I'm a caterer, and I have catered for the law community in Middletown for over 30 years. Their recommendation was not to put up the signs because that can create more problem, warning people that we could have vicious dogs and put us in a different position. But Officer Cunningham said put up the signs. Since those signs went up, somebody has purposely planted dog defecation in my bushes 4 feet from my house, from my door. They are purposely coming in the yard. We don't know who it is yet, but this past Sunday, my husband and I put up cameras. We shouldn't have to live like this. I've been on that street for 23 years. I've never had a problem. And I just think that all homeowners should understand what their rights are. All dog walkers should understand what their rights are, and neither one of these entities should be infringing on each other. So I was hoping that you guys could give me some clarification on why I have a nuisance ticket for when clearly in the nuisance law that we have here on the Code of Ordinance for Portland, what we're talking about here for roaming nuisance has nothing to do with barking. It says roaming at large, and my dogs were in their yard. They were not roaming at large. Now, our statute, Section 5.3 on the Code of Ordinances for for the town of Portland differs from that of the state of Connecticut. The state of Connecticut, which I've also shown you, is Section 22.363. It includes excessive barking or other disturbances, or by such barking or other disturbances, it is a source of annoyance to any sick person residing in the immediate area. So I'm not sure if this ticket now was issued based on state statute, because my dogs were barking, or Portland's town ordinances. Okay, but then I also want to know then, if we're going with the state ones, what is the immediate vicinity? Because for 23 years, I've had a dog. These ones I've had for 12. Not a single one of my neighbors either side. Fred and Peg Gross, Felicia Grayjack, John and Maura Dillon, the town hall. Nobody has complained about my dogs. When somebody walks by, they're going to bark. Even if they're in the house, if a car goes by and it's close enough, they're going to bark and say, hey, how are you? So I'm not understanding where the basis of this ticket is for. But most importantly, I want everybody in town, especially when we have shorter yards. A comment that Officer Cunningham made to my husband on Saturday, well, it was only a foot. It wasn't like it was 50. I have 0.17 of an acre,
68 by 68.
including my house. I don't care whether it's a foot or 50 feet for anybody, whether you own 10 feet of land or 15 acres. Where is the property line, and what are our rights as a property owner to have our property, be safe on it, and have people held accountable for crossing that property line and causing damage? These dogs come through. We watch it every single day. People walk down the street, and when we spoke to Karen, the animal control officer, she goes, well, most people should be walking with either a 4 or 5 foot leash. If you don't mind me demonstrating, this is the sidewalk. If you have a 4 or 5 foot leash, you're in people's yard. And because they don't want the dogs to walk on the sidewalk where it's hot, they hold their arms out and they walk down. The dogs pee and poop on everyone's yard, up and down East Main Street, all day long. That's not appropriate to me. I think that my front yard, or anyone's front yard, is an extension of their home. It's like my living room carpet. I invite people in to sit in my yard, and this is just not and I get it. We're talking about animals and how can you correct everything. But if we don't make people aware of what's out there and what the ordinances are, then we don't hold them socially responsible to have proper protocol and etiquette in living in a community, which is so great of Portland. Do you have anything you want to add?
I just want to let everybody know that where we live, everybody knows where we live. Fred Gross, Peggy Gross, they have a German Shepherd live right next to us. They also don't have their dog on a leash half the time because it's their property. So again, John Dillon, they have an invisible fence, but their dogs are not on a leash because they got an invisible fence. 2 doors down, that lady has a dog, which sometimes is not on a leash. Okay? And these dogs never fight. So again, with the general vicinity thing, I don't think that somebody from Woodlawn, which we have people walk all the way from Woodlawn down our way,
Or
Highland Avenue or other streets around, would be our immediate vicinity where barking would actually mean it's menacing, because if you choose to walk, Highland Avenue has one sidewalk. So you have to understand the same thing. If it's one sidewalk on the street, then it's understandable. But if you have two sidewalks on a street, like East Main Street where we live, and you have the town hall, which takes up 3/4 of that block, because there's only 2 houses. On their side, there's 4 houses. If you choose to walk down the side that has a German Shepherd, my 2 dogs, no dog, and then a dog that has a pit bull on the next street, and you choose to walk down that street, yes, people have the right to walk wherever they want.
But they
But
can't
when
go-
they walk 3 or 4 times a day down that street, and then they go, well, I like this side of the street. Well, you're agitating my dogs. I'm not saying you don't have the right to walk here, but don't complain about my dogs because you choose to walk down this side. The town hall's right there with a big park in the back that everybody runs their dogs. We used to run our dogs there. When the dogs were puppies, we all used to meet there, and we all used to let our dogs play. Then there was a dog defecation issue with because that's where they play Little League. So I fenced in my backyard, and my dogs only use the backyard to go to the bathroom. My front yard looks nice. Don't go in the backyard. I have no grass. I got nice plants, but no grass. Because it's not okay when the kids are out there playing to do this. So, because I fenced in my yard, now my dogs, that's their yard. They nose to nose with Peggy's German Shepherd, never an issue. Dog down the street, never an issue. Even when he gets loose and comes up, or my dogs get loose, they don't fight. You mean, if you have a problem with a dog in the area, normally you should say, hey, is your dog friendly? Maybe get to meet him before you keep walking down the street, and then scream if they get out and cause an issue. Because basically, when somebody starts screaming and the dog's outside, first thing he's going to do is react to the screaming. So you're holding, and even if they're outside and they don't come off our property, if you're screaming and the dogs are barking, as long as they're not biting or anything else, then it shouldn't be an issue, because the dogs never leave the property. But yet they're calling it a nuisance ticket because
Well,
on the state statute it's parking.
75% of the time, the dogs are in our house. My husband and I are workaholics, my daughter's at work or at school. So they're only out for a very small period of time, and they're never out there without one of us. So our biggest thing, again, is that what is this nuisance, what is this nuisance being based on? And every owner should know that then, because if my dog is a nuisance for barking, then everybody's dog should be a nuisance for barking. Everybody. So I was just seeking some clarification on where we can move this town forward to understanding and create a socially responsible. And you can't do it all, I get it. We're not gonna get everybody on board. But I think if they were more aware of what takes place, I'm looking for answers.
Well, the ticket was issued to you.
And it was mailed in.
And I did check with Lieutenant Millardo before tonight's meeting, because you had asked to come, and he pointed out that, I believe you have appealed the ticket?
Yes, we have.
Yeah, because
Yes.
Scott Cunningham told me to mail it in.
Right. So you will go to court, I presume, and make your arguments, perhaps as you did tonight. This board, for the specific ticket, doesn't have jurisdiction at this point.
Well, we ain't saying, but we're trying
But
to clarify the law.
Your
Because,
concerns about the ordinance is something this board is responsible for, and we certainly can put it on as we do many ordinances and review them.
because one of the issues that we're fighting now is, we were issued this ticket. I don't believe it was fair. And I talked to the police officer, and we understand. It's a catch-all kind of thing for anything that happens. Now the only problem is to go fight this ticket, my wife has to take a day off of work. I have to take a day off of work to fight a ticket that probably should have never been issued in the first place.
But either way.
Because this is that's where when she first started up, where it gets aggravating, is I'm issued a ticket based on one person's agenda, because they never got a statement from my daughter, and now I got $500 in cameras. I have no trespassing signs. I have 2 days worth of lost work between me and my wife taking off to go fight a ticket. For a ticket that was only issued because of the ordinance not being clear, I've put out $1,200.
From what we understand, and for me, it's only hearsay, because I don't have the report, I haven't seen the report. I was told that this woman is claiming that her dog was injured on my property. That means, and the dog was on a leash, that means she allowed her dog to roam on my property. So where is her nuisance ticket for roaming? And where is the town's responsibility to make sure that across the board, the laws are upheld?
In terms of review of the ordinances, we would, I presume, invite the animal control officer, Karen, and we would also invite the police to come and help us to perhaps answer some of the questions, and also to help us determine if we need to update the ordinance, and so forth. So we can certainly put that on a future agenda. It is something that we typically do, particularly if somebody in the town asks us to. Anything further from the selectmen?
I just
Brett?
have a question. What type of ticket, this is a ticket that is issued by our police, by our
By
department?
the animal control officer, and she works under the supervision of the police department.
This ticket, though, when it was issued, if I can interject,
Yes.
was not based on section 5-3 of Portland ordinances. It was issued, this says nuisance, statute 22-363, which is part of the state statute. Because that one
State
lists,
law.
the state law, that one lists the excessive barking. Ours doesn't list the excessive barking. So why doesn't ours list the extensive barking? And why did we omit it when our statute was put in place?
Well, this is an ordinance, so
The ordinance.
that's separate from the state law.
Okay.
And
So then I'd like the clarification on what nuisance is.
Sure, we can certainly talk about that.
Because you can look at on the statute that I handed out, there's an extra one for the state one. That no person shall own or harbor a dog or dogs which is in or are a nuisance by reason of vicious disposition or excessive barking or other disturbances, or by such barking or other disturbances is and are sources of annoyance to any sick person residing in the immediate vicinity. What is the immediate vicinity? This woman resides a street away, street and a half away. So is that the immediate vicinity? Or does immediate vicinity mean anybody that walks by with a dog? Okay, that's what I'm understanding. And when you look at the definition of a vicious dog, a dog is not vicious by virtue of any past behavior or propensity until a panel makes the determination based upon evidence presented to it that a dog, and in order to confirm that, a panel of 3 individuals, which shall include the first selectman, 1 veterinary licensed in the state, and a health officer, deems a dog vicious. And I believe that my dogs are being judged as vicious because they bark.
I'm not certain about that.
That's not the conversation we had with Karen. And that's not the conversation that we have with Jean Casella, because Jean Casella confronted my daughter viciously again when she handed the first ticket, going, this has happened way too many times in the past 3 months. In the past month, I'm sorry, Devin, thank you. And nothing had happened. April 5th, another woman let her dog in our yard, our dogs bite, that pit bull bit our dog and damaged our dog. Didn't say anything. Dogs fight, okay, no problem. You take care of ours, we'll take care of ours. And now, 3 months later, again, she's being reprimanded that this is an ongoing thing. We've lived there 23 years. We've had these dogs for 12. If you look in the books, there is no complaints. My dogs have never created a problem. So I just don't understand where these opinions coming in, and I think that their opinions are influencing the way they decipher the law.
Any questions or from the board?
I think it's a good idea to have the animal control officer and
Sure.
take a look at, if there are questions.
Sure.
We all have experiences with dogs, and where I live, there are dogs do bark, and just because they bark, I don't think should be considered vicious, certainly. So, yeah, it'd be
I think
good
it'd be
to
helpful
take a
to
look
have
at that
them.
ordinance.
And just because they bark, do you consider them a nuisance?
Personally, I would consider them a nuisance if they were barking, 12 o'clock at night every night, for 2 hours. That's a nuisance.
Mhm.
If a dog barks and a dog goes by, that's not a nuisance. That's me, that's not.
Yep.
Sure.
And I'll point out that we do have a certified animal control officer. She has gone to the training. She continuously is trained. So I think it is appropriate to have Karen come and,
Like I say, we don't have a problem with Karen. I talked to her about 1 million times already. Karen's a very
No,
nice
she's
lady.
resourceful.
And she is. I just think that, again, I'm friends with many police officers, many dog wardens, and
Yes.
from what I'm told, this is the ticket that they give people to just appease other people when they complain. Because it's a catch-all ticket for anything they want to do. Like you said, when you listen to the thing, if it's being a bother to somebody, they can give you a nuisance ticket. There is no length of time for the dog barking. If the dog barks once and somebody complains, you know what I mean? There's no actual stated time that a dog's allowed to bark without getting this ticket. So I've talked to other dog wardens, and they've all told me that's their catch-all and save-all, to just give a ticket to somebody if they want to give a ticket. Because there's no standard in that ticket. If a dog barks for a prolonged amount of period of time, what's the prolonged period? There's no time there. The dog barks because he's outside at midnight, like you say, but a dog's walking by. If he barks for 2 minutes, is that prolonged? You know, that's all to the police officer point of view. But our point was, there was only one witness when we got the ticket, and that was the lady complaining. Nobody took a statement from my daughter, so they only gave a ticket on one point of view.
And
And-
those were Karen's views. It's her word against yours. Those were her
That-
words.
that-
And
that
I'm
was
going,
one of
you
my
don't
biggest problems,
have
because-
her words. So why are we 28 days down the road and we're still I don't even know what the report says.
In
There's
terms
no
of-
clarification on our side what this woman is claiming.
In terms of the general information, we will invite our ACO to come. I think it's helpful for the board to hear some information on animal control in our town. And we'll also have a police officer come as well. Kitch, did you have
Yes,
something?
I was just wondering why only one statement was taken at the time, and maybe we can hear an explanation for that.
We can certainly speak with them. I don't have an answer. Only if they leave and someone else gets up to speak, because it is communications time right now. It's if you want to have any conversation, I will allow it. Is Sarah?
Yeah, and like I said,
finished?
you know, this is still
You
going
wait
on,
for
so I go,
Sarah to
when
finish.
are we going to see this report? You know, I had to send that ticket, the first ticket that they issued that they took back didn't have an answer date on. It was filled out, it wasn't signed, and it didn't have an answer date on it. Then they took that one back and issued another one on the 18th that had to be turned in by the 29th. They actually put an answer date on that one.
Did you
So-
request from the records clerk a copy of the report?
We've talked to everybody about getting a report. Talked to
'Cause
Scott
that is
Cunningham
what
yesterday
Lieutenant
morning.
Millardo told me.
He's working nights, so he's having a little bit of issues because he's working nights, and again, like I told him, I understand you're working nights. I need it before I go to court, but.
The records are maintained at the police department, and
Yeah.
when they can be issued,
Yeah.
that's where you would make the request.
So-
as you-
Well, then I have another question then, because right here is the report that I have from April 5th.
Okay.
When this other dog entered our yard.
Did the police
Karen,
give that?
no, Karen did.
Okay.
Karen came.
She's part of the police department.
Yep, but Karen came 3 days later. I have a full investigative report with everybody's address, race, sex, phone numbers, and a full investigation of all
I didn't
those
think
who
you
were
had
interviewed.
that. I didn't think you had that.
Not for this
No,
one.
not for
We
this
had
one.
this one
That
for
was
the
okay.
April
Okay.
5th.
Okay.
It was done thoroughly. So now I understand, okay, what's going on here? All parties involved were investigated. This happened on the date of the report was April 11th, and I received this on 3 days later. Karen had this done in 3 days.
And there was no ticket issued.
No.
No ticket
Because
issued.
it was on my property. There was a blood trail from my
Okay.
property to the sidewalk where it ended. because
Our
my
dogs
dog
were,
had its
my
ear
dog
ripped.
was quarantined
and two
because it
holes
was
in its
bit and
head.
was ripped. This next time, Jean showed up 3 days later with a ticket.
And quarantined
With
my
the
dog.
quarantine my dog, no report, and to this day, it's 28 days, and I have no idea what took place. I know my daughter's side, I don't know this woman's side, I don't know what her accusations are. I understand from talking to Karen and from talking to the police officer that she claims she injured herself picking up her dog. Her statements, from what I understand, like I said, I haven't read it, because I don't have it. She was on the sidewalk and she picked up her dog and wrenched her shoulder. That is not my fault. She is on a town sidewalk, she picks up her dog and wrenches her shoulder. That's not my problem. And again, this is something that I'm gonna have to, if she takes me to court, I'm gonna have to defend myself in court. The nuisance ticket I can have heard. But I want homeowners to understand what their rights are, and I want people to be held accountable for their own actions as well. I had to call my insurance company, obviously, to let them know that something took place, and they've looked into this woman, and she has other litigious complaints, one with a grocery store and one with a bank. She has a propensity to sue. And I don't want this to happen to anybody else. Certainly, I mean, I'm 53, but we have plenty of elderly people that don't need this hassle in their life when somebody's not held responsible for walking their dog on town property. It infringes on public property and private property, and this is not, you know, so I appreciate you looking into the ordinances, but we need answers.
Let somebody.
So I really do, I thank you. I thank you very much. As you can see, it's very frustrating.
Thank you for coming out.
No, thank you very much.
Sarah and David, thank you. Mr. Jerry, did you want to make it?
I'm Jack Sterry, been from 83 years. That don't mean nothing. But the main thing is, people say, just get an attorney. Just plead not guilty. It's money out of your pocket. And money isn't to be thrown around. Now, I think, and I wasn't any part of it, but I think an officer, before they write a ticket, should say, what am I writing this ticket for? What is the cost gonna be on the person who I write the ticket to? I don't think in this case, in most cases, a ticket needs to be written. First, it costs these people money to go to court, days out of work. It costs the town of Portland money to defend these actions. And what's the hourly cost of a police officer, including fringe benefits in the town of Portland, or the dog warden? Would I say $100 an hour? Is that fair?
Depends.
Total
Depends
cost per hour?
On the officer, depends on whether it's overtime or straight time. I get your point, though.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sterry. Under communications, we also have, our librarian is here, Mrs. Janet Nocheck, and then we'll take public comment after she completes, in case there's other people that want to make public comment.
Thank you,
Hello,
Susan.
Janet.
Good evening. Hi. Just wanted to let you know what's going on at the library a little bit, but there is something imminent that you need to know about in case it happens. There's a state grant, a Connecticut State Library construction grant, believe it or not. They have some money. They are giving it out to a limited, for limited purposes. They usually offer money to all kinds of libraries for large projects, small projects. They've limited the large projects, the kind of major construction of over 500,000. That's limited this year only to what they call distressed municipalities, to libraries in towns that really, municipalities that have, very difficult economic situations apparently. So we don't fall into that, but we can get a Category 2 grant possibly. We can apply for one certainly. That will help us with some things we've been planning to do. The library board has talked often about, making accessibility better in the library for different types of disabilities, and we've had some ideas and just sort of, they've been gelling. And we know we need to update furnishings. Some of them are dated and very, very hard to get in and out of unless you're in real good shape, and leaves me out sometimes. So we're, the things have added up, little things, and all of a sudden we're saying, okay, we need a plan. So we are looking into hiring a consultant to give us a design plan so that we'll have something to move forward with, something organized, so that we don't just kind of, put a piece here and a piece there, that we know what we're moving toward and what it's going to cost better, and plan it out over time. The library board does have some funds in an investment vehicle, and several investment vehicles that the town also oversees, and we've been doing pretty well with them, as many investments have been. So there is some money there that might be used for the required match for this grant. The grant timeline would be into next fiscal year in any event. We wouldn't be talking about anything right now. If we do get the grant, we'll come back. We'll know better what we're talking about. I can't even give you a number right now because it's really been precipitous. We're working on it now. So, obviously it's going to be substantial. It could be in the triple figures, but for the entire project, it won't be 500,000, don't worry. But there is a match, and the library board will decide how much they feel they could match, commit to at this point. And then, so hopefully, we'll be able to do several things that we might not have been able to do, a little faster if we can get this. If not, then we'll plug along. But that's basically what's happening there. I did give you out something from the state library with the timeline, so that might help you see what's going on. The grant is actually due September 1st, no rush. We find out in November, probably late November, if the state library has approved it for us. And then we actually you wouldn't be able to get the money for some time yet after that. We still have to prove within a year that we have the funds, and then the state bond commission has to appropriate the funds. So then you have actually up to 18 months to initiate your project after that. I would hope we could do it sooner than that, that things would be rolling by then if we do get it. But that's where it stands. So it's just something, if you hear about it, that it's not happening imminently or anything. We don't have a number yet, but we wanted to let you know. And if you look at our goals, that was one of the goals, was to try to increase funds we have available for the building, for the facility. And we might do fundraising at some point, but we do have the investments too. So things are looking up, believe it or not. So in that regard. So any questions or
Any
concerns?
questions for Janet? Thanks for alerting us to this and for yours and the board. I see our board chairman is here. Thank you for coming.
Margot, very
And
supportive.
Margot Chapman is here. And we look forward to hopefully your successful application, and
That'd be
then
great.
let us know how that proceeds.
Okay, we certainly will, yes. If
Thank
you have
you.
any questions after, please contact us. We're having a meeting August 15th, is that 17th? What's the Thursday? 17th, sorry. And we're going to try to get a couple of the possible design planners to come and talk with us, and so we'll have some questions for them. So, pick out the right person to go forward with the planning on this, the basic plan.
Very good. Thank you, Janet.
Okay,
Thank
you're
you, Margot.
welcome.
Now we'll go to public comment. Are there any further public comments tonight? Hello? Yes. Hi, Shirley.
Actually, before I knew that this was being brought up in relation to the dogs, I recently finished reading local governments in Connecticut. One of the sections is relation to animal control officers. And I have a question, because in the literature I read, and the person who wrote the book has been a town manager in 3 towns. He teaches at the University of New Haven, so and this last book he did is the 3rd edition, and 2 other town managers with previous town manager experience was there. And it comments in relation to the animal control officer about deep and wild animals. I have a question in relation to wild animals. There was a neighbor that called in relation to skunks, which I believe are wild animals, and was told that those are not under the purview of the animal control officer. Just before school got out for the summer, in June, someone looked out the back of their house, the back of the houses face Middlesex Avenue Park, and there was a coyote there at 10 o'clock in the morning. And I have seen fisher cats. And this is an area which is used by, Jim can attest, Parks and Rec, Viz Intermediate School, the public, kids that practice their soccer, whether they're from the town of Portland. Sometimes it's the kids that go to Xavier. The guys from Xavier come over in the summertime. And they live in the town of Portland, their parents are paying taxes, come on down and use the soccer field. I mean, that's the way I feel about it. But I think as long as the ordinance is gonna be looked at, I think it is appropriate to come up with some sort of mechanism by which to, report these wild animals that are, so close to the children. And actually, I haven't seen it in our neighborhood, but there are people in other sections of the neighborhood that they have them going through their yards all the time. And the other comment I want to make, it's just in relation to dogs. The couple next door took in a black lab mix, and the husband was coming out constantly as soon as the dog went once. Finally, I called his wife and I said, "Don't we really want Miley to know when there's strange dogs around? Their yard is complete, the dog is fenced in." And over time, Miley got to learn all the dogs in the neighborhood. She doesn't bark at them. She will bark at me if I'm in my backyard and I have a hat on instead of not having a hat on. And all I have to do is walk over to the fence, say, "Hi, Miley, how are you? Let me scratch your nose," and that's the end of it.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
I think we fixed it.
I gotta get up again.
Under monthly budget report, we did print a report for you. Frankly, there are not a lot of comments to be made. It's very early in the fiscal year, but we did want to run for you a report that is dated 8/2/17. And Tom did not have anything in particular to point out because it is so preliminary, but I did want to share it with you. If there are questions, certainly contact Tom directly or my office as well. The next item on our agenda is something that we had talked about last time, and that is number 8, a resolution for the Plan of Conservation and Development Implementation Committee. And I will read it for your consideration. Whereas the 2016-2026 Plan of Conservation and Development and the Portland Board of Selectmen recognize the need to appoint a committee of citizens to collaborate on the implementation on the Plan of Conservation and Development, and whereas the committee will be providing guidance and oversight to the project, and whereas the following tasks will be accomplished. A, shall meet 2 to 4 times, should be times, annually. B, establish priorities and guide implementation of the plan's recommendations. C, assess the status of specific recommendations. D, suggest new implementation techniques. And E, prepare implementation schedules and/or develop an annual implementation program of issues to be addressed by boards and commissions. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Selectmen, pursuant to Section 4065 of the Portland Charter, hereby creates a Plan of Conservation and Development Implementation Committee consisting of 5, should say 5, that's an error. 5 regular members, unless you want 7, but I think 5 is adequate, and 2 alternate members. And be it further resolved that the Land Use Administrator, 1 member of the Board of Selectmen, and 1 member of Planning and Zoning Commission shall be ex officio non-voting members of the committee with all the rights, duties, and responsibilities accorded ex officio members. And be it further resolved that the Board of Selectmen retains the right to decide whether to replace any members who may resign or be removed for failure to participate in the work of the committee. And if such members are not replaced, the actual number of members shall be those members serving at any given time. And be it further resolved, the committee shall adhere to all aspects of the Freedom of Information Law dealing with public agencies and Robert's Rules of Order. And be it further resolved, the committee shall continue to function until such time as the work called for in this resolution is completed, and at which time the committee shall notify the Board of Selectmen, and the Board of Selectmen shall disband the committee. So I'll open it up for comments, changes, or additions.
For our discussion.
Fred?
I'll move the resolution, adoption of the resolution.
Okay.
Second.
second by Kathy. I heard Kathy's voice first, so now we'll have discussion. Fred, did you have some comments?
I think the five, you said five, regular members, that would, which would be a total of seven, that's probably adequate, I wouldn't go any more than
You agree? Okay,
Yep, yep.
that's helpful. Then we'll make it 5 regular members and 2 alternate members. Anything else that you want to add to this? Or, what I did was I went to the Plan of Conservation and Development and pulled out what was in there. Had already been adopted.
Now, this is actually just adopting a recommendation of the document that we adopted
Yes.
unanimously.
Right.
And setting up that pick. So I think it'll be a help. Our volunteer boards have done a great job, and, you know, and particularly in the last few years, getting some things done that may not have happened were it not for the volunteers behind and pushing and doing the work, a lot of the work. So this hopefully will be a committee that will be able to keep that book off the shelf and gather dust, which books do have a way of happening to them.
Good point. Any other comments?
Well, like Fred said, this is something that, when you read the plan of conservation, there's a whole document that talks about implementation. Establishing this committee is a good way to make sure that it continues to be a living document. We are working on some of these initiatives already. I think this is a good proposal.
Susan, I would say that the implementation document that you provided us with at our last meeting clearly delineates some of the things that need to occur, so I think that's a great starting off point.
Good. Are you ready for the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. And if you have any interest in being the ex officio,
I would have,
okay, well, we'll accept 2, Kitch and Jim. That would be fine. Thank you very much. And if the respective town committees want to nominate folks, that would be helpful too, for the next time. Which leads us to appointments to boards and commissions. I have none tonight. Kathy, have any, or Mike or Kitch? Okay. Then we'll move on to refunds of excess payments. Kathy?
I make a motion to refund Michelle Kojima have $86.03.
Seconded by Kitch. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
I make a motion to refund Ally Financial $247.96.
Seconded by Kitch. All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Motion carries.
I make a motion to refund Joseph M. Pujnowski $117.60.
Seconded by Kitch. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Make a motion to refund Wilhelm Coots $21.86.
Seconded by Kitch. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Make a motion to refund Kevin Ogden $76.96.
Seconded by Kitch. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Make a motion to refund Donald M. Jr. and Eileen M. Butterworth $66.94.
Seconded by Kitch. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
I make a motion to refund Donald M. Butterworth Jr. $216.44.
Seconded by Kitch. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. Status reports. I will let you know that we did sign the papers associated with the Weston and Sampson procedure for them to put together the contract documents for the Route 17 project, and also the notice of award for the DiCello construction for the airline trail. So we'll be proceeding with those as they take their next course of action. We're also, I signed closing documents for the purchase of equipment under the 6-year lease arrangement. So that is also in process as well. And there's also some work being done on our buildings, not completed yet in light of the bond referendum that passed as well. So condensers for this building, which I believe are all completed. Janet, that's good. And then we'll be looking at the windows at the Buck Foreman and some roof work at some of the buildings. So we have some architects that will be helping us to make sure those are done properly as well. We'll try to keep you up to date on those. Public comment again. Shirley?
I'm disappointed that, Mr. Robinson is not here to make comments, given that currently there is no state budget, and the governor is in total control. And what effect has this had over the month of July compared to the month of July last year? I just don't understand it. This is a very stressful and tenuous situation with the governor. And we may not have a budget until the fall. That was in the news today.
Thank you. Any other comments tonight? General informal discussion by the Board of Selectmen is next. Comments tonight? Kitch?
Where do we stand for permitting for the Brainerd project? Has anything occurred as of yet?
No permits have been issued. I believe next week there will be a meeting, sort of a planning meeting with our land use administrator and some of the other land use staff with representatives from the Brainerd Place project. So we'll know a little more, I hope next week, Kitch.
The potential date for the fireworks?
Yeah, well, it rained today.
Did it ever?
So, one area we're looking at, and it has not been established, but the potential is, maybe Family Day, which tends to be a dry day. In the past.
It all works well.
Right. I know that committee chairman is out of, the area, unable to meet at least for a couple of weeks, but she
Okay.
should be back by the end of August. But I thought that would be
Nice
a
ending of
day.
that day.
Yeah, it's good.
So that's one thought, but the committee still needs to take a look at who's available to volunteer and all that, so I
And-
don't have a firm date.
All right. So, asbestos removal, that was, and I can't remember.
At the schools.
With the schools, yeah. Where are we with that?
I don't have an update on that.
Okay. Do you think you could have that information for us at the next
Sure.
meeting? Thank you. I think that's all I have.
Great, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I have nothing on follow-up items for tonight. And I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session, a very short one, on
moved.
land acquisition made by Kitch,
Second.
seconded by Kathy. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all for coming tonight. Appreciate your comments. Good night.
Probably good side.